A few people have been asking me about my examination of conscience. It's something that I do in the evening before I go to sleep. Now, one of these questions had this message, and that's why I took it. As an amateur fighter who's also spiritual, that encourages me to stay close to God, I like the examination of conscience exercise. Could you please elaborate on that in another video? Yep, here we are. Great question. Now, like I said, I see he's a fighter. But whatever your profession you have, if you're smart, do this. In the evening, an examination of your job that you did that day. You see, many people are unknowingly already doing this. And if you don't, well, you're not maximizing your potential. It's important. I'll give you an example. In martial arts, if you're sparring and you make a mistake, right? Let's say you kick your partner, and because of that, you get hit in the face. Well, you would have to learn from that. Why did it happen? Didn't I set up my kick with punches? Was I stationary after I kicked? And that's the reason he could land a counter. Were my hands up? Was he setting me up with prior combinations? Wait a minute, was he reading my movements after I kicked? Meaning, did I develop a pattern? Ooh, we want to stay away from that. How can I make sure it will never happen again? Maybe use different setups for my kicks? And when it does happen again, can I counter? Can I use this against him actually? Wait a minute, if I do this a little bit slower on purpose, can I set him up so I can counter his counter? You see, all these questions, that's just after one kick, one freaking move. So try to remember how your sparring partner hit you. Even better, simply ask him if he used a special combination to do it. Because most of the time, it will be something that that person worked on before. And if not, simply ask him if he was reading your movements and maybe he discovered a pattern. So what you're doing, pretty much, is treating every workout as a professional fight. I mean, if you make a stupid mistake in a fight, in a professional fight, and you get knocked out in front of a lot of people, including your friends and family members, yeah. Well, if you're smart, you're going to make sure that that will never happen again. So that loss actually made you a better fighter. But that, again, is of course only when you are smart. So why not treat your workouts like that as well? Because if you don't, it might happen in front of an audience. But please note this, right? When you get knocked out in a fight, you have the video to go back to. When you spar, you only have your memory. And if he hits you hard in the head, well, that memory might not be that great at that particular moment. So I personally would always bring a notepad to my workouts. And after I would get hit, and I knew what it was, the next break in between the rounds or any break I could find, I would write it down. I would also do this with like submission ideas. When suddenly something would pop up, I go, oh, what about this? When my partner escaped the submission that I put him in, and I've never seen that escape before. Now, pretty much anything that pops up in your head, the next break, simply write it down, because otherwise you're going to forget. So, like I said, many smart people are already doing this with their jobs, and the ones who are doing this are the ones who want to get further in life. I mean, if you keep it simple, right? You work a regular job, you don't have any goals, you will do the same thing over and over again. So then, if you make a mistake, just one time here and there, you're going to go, who cares? It's just once in a while. It's not that bad. And you do this because you are comfortable with what you have. You do your hours, and then you get the same money year in, year out. And listen, that's okay. There's been many times I wished I would have chosen a job like that. Because then when you come home, you are actually home and can spend time with the family. But if you're looking to better yourself in that company that you work for, well, you better start doing an examination of job. Because then you're going to make sure that you never make the same mistakes again. And because of that, you already guessed it, you're going to get better and better. And that might set you up for promotion later on. Now let's talk about the examination of conscience. You can actually call this exercise also examination of being a decent person. Now once you do this, you will become a better person. Needless to say, like anything else in life, a bad person can actually make him or her more devious by doing this as well. So please don't, and just use this exercise for good stuff. Now, first of all, as always, whatever I say about how I live my life, that doesn't mean I don't make mistakes, right? People come up to me after I spoke and then they tell me, oh man, I wish that I had my life in order just like you have. And I always start laughing. I go, trust me, man. First of all, almost nobody has the life in order. And from those nobodies, I will be the last person who has his life in order. Now, I cleaned up quite a bit though, and I work on it every freaking moment of the day because it's very important to me, but I do not have my life in perfect order. Also, if you're a non-believer, well, this exercise is actually really good for you as well. So it doesn't matter if you believe or not, this is just a really great way to wrap up your day, to get ready for the next one. That is, of course, if you are looking to be happier. If you're like a fake account internet troll holder, you know, that's probably not going to work for you. Or you're going to make it worse, since those kind of people prefer anger over happy. Now, this is a line you hear me say a lot. You have two personalities in your head. You have a good personality and a bad personality. And which personality will grow the fastest? The one that you feed the most. Like, for instance, conspiracy. I love them, right? But I'm not really committing to them because a lot of them you simply don't know. But once you start getting into this rabbit hole, you start second guessing everything else as well. And once that creeps into your personal relationship, maybe you start not trusting the people around you. Or even when they make a joke, you believe it's like, is he making a joke or is he not making a joke? Because you're online constantly second guessing everything. Again, you're feeding that wrong personality, the bad one. So stop and start feeding the good one. Pretty much everything with moderation is okay. So simply pull back a little bit. Like those internet trolls, right? They don't see what they're doing is wrong. It has become normal for them. And because it's normal, therefore, they believe it's completely okay to do. Like this example, I love a lot. You know, two guys come out of a bar and they both step in their own cars. One is an alcoholic who drank too much, and the other one is a person who normally never drinks, but this time he had one drink too many. Now, both these guys get caught by the cops. The person who normally never drinks, he will say, damn it, I should have never gotten in my car. I should have called an Uber. And the alcoholic, you know what he's going to say? Damn it, I should have taken a different road home. You see, it's never their fault. And this, I know, because I used to be like that. There we go again. This is pride. Now, many times when I do this examination of conscience, I forget a few things, but somehow, pretty much always, when I walk the dog the next day in the morning, the things that I forgot the evening before are suddenly popping back up. So even when you remember all your memories that you had from that day, don't worry about it. Your brain is busy with it, and it will let you know in the morning which ones you forgot, especially if you're going to make this a new habit of yours, and you're going to do this every day. So what you're doing is going over your day in your mind. Try to break it down. Just start with waking up. Thank you for waking up, first of all. Normally, let's say when you drink a quart of water, and after you do that, you drink coffee. This time, though, you changed it. You started with the coffee, and you feel your stomach acting up. Write that crap down. Because starting the day with a stomach ache, that's not going to be fun. So maybe tomorrow, go back to the old pattern, right? First drink the water and then just start drinking the coffee. So just go over regular situations and decide later which you want to change or which one you don't want to change. Now the big one, the biggest one. What did I do wrong? How can I make sure I don't do that wrong thing again? That's an easy one, right? So you did something wrong. Well, the first thing, and this is very important, you acknowledge you made a mistake. You see, pride sometimes makes you want to look for excuses. Don't do that. Don't look for reasons. You got to own it, right? Because once you own it, that's the only way you will try to make sure that it will never happen again. Making it lighter on yourself never works. It will also make you forget it next time when you're about to make that same mistake again. So, own it. It's simple. You do something good or you do something bad. There is nothing in between. It's black and white. There are no gray areas here. And this is a line that I made up, and I like this because I really tried to think like this. Doing a small good act is still doing good. doing a small evil act is still doing evil. So whether you steal a cent or $1,000,000, well, stealing is stealing. And now you might say, come on, boss, but a cent is nothing. Okay, well, with your way of thinking, so if your partner cheats on you with only one person, well, in your mind, that's nothing, right? Since your partner, she didn't cheat with like 20 or 30 people. No, it doesn't work like that. Cheating is cheating. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm a choir boy or have been a choir boy. Trust me, I've been the opposite, right? I was pretty bad, right? But always, when I stole things, it was always from companies like cafes, bars, schools, restaurants, supermarkets. I never made it personal. I never stole from a person or I broke into a home where a person lived. But for the rest, yeah, I did a lot of things wrong and bad also. So when you do something bad, acknowledge it, fix it, done, don't do it again. Now please understand that doing wrong can also be thoughts and words. You can think about a person in a very bad way, and if you're a devout Christian, well, maybe you might fantasize over a beautiful girl that you just saw. And all the while, you're in a relationship yourself. You see what I mean? So thoughts are also bad. Or maybe you said something to somebody with that person, which that person didn't deserve at that particular moment. Or you talk bad about another person to others. Just know, again, words and thoughts are almost the same as actions. And thoughts are always the start of actions. Just think about that. So the next one, what did I do right? Can I make it even better the next time? Okay, let's say you helped a person with the groceries to their car, right? Done. You feel good about it. Well, that's actually the greatest thing about doing something good, right? You never feel bad after you did it. That's the great thing. But you helped that person with their groceries. Okay, did you ask that person, do you have somebody home who can help you unload this? I mean, if you didn't ask that question, well, you guessed it, right? Next time, when you decide to help a person with the groceries, make sure they are also covered when they come home. This is important. Well, just think about it, right? If you if you see that person can carry something by him or herself, how on earth is that person going to get the groceries out of the car into their home? And what kind of home? An apartment? What floor? Are there elevators? I mean, you can go crazy on this. What I'm trying to say is once you help and you ask if they have help unloading the stuff at their home and they say no, well, you committed now. You started this thing. So now you should drive behind that person to their home and you're going to have to help unload the groceries. Also make sure you have a thick skin, by the way, because some of these people, and they will be very understandable, suspicious. I mean, they can invite a criminal into their home, right? I mean, it's a great little setup. So when, for instance, it's an older person who feels weird about your offer, or maybe it's a lady with a baby, just get your driver's license out. Make a picture of the driver's license, send it to all your loved ones, and make sure, hey, this is the guy I'm going to go home with. So that if, God forbid, something bad happens, well, everybody knows it's me who's the bad guy. And the last one, what didn't I do but should have done? Oh, that's a good one for me. Okay, so let me give you an example. I was working out one time in a fitness room from a hotel. And while I was working out, another guy was there, also my age, and he was talking to a few ladies. And when he saw me, he goes, "Wow, sir, you look great." So I thanked him for his comment, and I let him know that, it's still a work in progress. But he looked good for his age as well. So why on earth didn't I tell him that he looks great for his age? You see, I should have done that. They call that common courtesy. Next time though, and that already happened, not with the same person of course, but I fixed it. This is when I, out of my own, asked it back. The thing about me is that I'm actually pretty introverted. Yeah, this is going to sound really weird. I'm telling you this, when I'm at a party and when nobody would recognize me and nobody would come up to me, I will probably be that whole evening by myself. I will not go and mingle with people. Now, when a person walks up and he says, "Hey, how are you doing? What's your name?" Boom, 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 it's on. I'm in. But it's really weird how that works with me. And I'm also not a face person. I look at the mannerisms and clothing. And it's the dumbest and the weirdest thing. I know that, and I also know why I started doing this, but it's too long to explain. But let me give you an example how freaking moronic I am sometimes. I was doing rehab for my arm, right, for the nerve damage, 3 times a week for 5 weeks. The person who helped me, his name was Jason. After 5 weeks, he showed up at my class when I was teaching, and I went up to him, introduced myself, said, "Hey there, I'm Bas, nice meeting you. Are you looking to start martial arts?" And he just looked at me, and he said, "Are you kidding?" And then only because I heard him speak, I realized it was him. So I've seen him 15 freaking times. And this time, though, he was wearing different clothes and a baseball cap. Now, normally, I would recognize the clothing and the environment. Yeah, but not the face. So if you tell me, "Boss, we met before," please don't get angry. I've done this way too many times. So right now, I'm really trying to look the people in the eyes and try to remember their faces. So that's another thing that I tell myself I should have done when I didn't. Now, I also try to make people safe around me. And that, of course, also came from a situation that I had in the past. Like when I'm standing on the escalator going down and I see an older person or a person who is not very stable on his or her feet or their legs, I just pass them and I will stand in front of them. Because when something would happen and they fall, I can actually catch them. Now, if the escalator is going up, I will stand behind that person. And same reason here, for when they fall, you can catch them. And like I said before, you know why it started? Why I started doing this? Because about 20 years ago, I was standing in front of a person when the escalator was going down, and that person lost his balance, and he was holding 2 suitcases, a suitcase in each hand. And he started falling forward. And I guess in panic, he still did not let go of his luggage. Listen, if I would have been there, he would have planted himself face first on the escalator steps. I know. Why didn't he let go of his luggage? I guess in panic, nobody knows how he or she will react. But that situation, since then, I've always been doing this. Thankfully, I never needed to step in, but I do know that if something would happen, at least I'm going to be there, and then hopefully I can do something about that situation. Now, needless to say, on a normal staircase, I will do exactly the same thing as well. And when somehow there are no railings, you know, it's a very wide one, it's an older person, just walk up and say, "Hey, want to take my hand?" It's like telling your students to get rid of the chewing gum before class starts. Same thing. People have been dying because of it. Am I serious? Yeah, I'm serious, yeah. But a lot of people don't, not a lot. Not a lot at all, but people did die in all different kinds of sports. So when I see somebody chewing gum in my class and I don't say anything, and then something bad happens to that person, well, that's 100% on me. Yeah, and I know the chances you're dying from chewing gum, minuscule. But why not making sure? That's another example of things that I should have done but didn't do. And even when you didn't say something before class to a person who's chewing gum, and thankfully nothing happened during that class, still, trust me, tell yourself that the next time you will say it. At least put the ball in their court. Tell them, and they can always decide themselves. I always explain it with this story, right? This is a horrible story, but this is what I always tell my students. This was a dentist. He was working on like a 6-year-old girl, and he was pulling her tooth, and he dropped the tooth in her mouth. And it rolled in there, and it bypassed the bronchial tubes. And she died on the table, right there. Because once it passes the bronchial tube, it's not in your trachea anymore, you can't Heimlich it out. Now it's done. Now you're going to die. And this happened before, so why not, make sure that if somebody has gum, that at least you tell that person that's a dangerous thing to do. Another one for your students in class. Did your students cut their toenails before they came in to train? What can happen? Well, ask Mike Winkeljohn, world famous trainer. He got kicked in the eye with a nail when he was holding the Thai pads for one of his students. Well, he lost his eye. Whoa, yeah. So there are always a lot of things you could have done but didn't do. In the beginning, when you start doing this, pull up your notes on your phone and simply type it in so you won't forget. Listen, I thought I would never forget. Trust me, you will forget. Just write it down all the time. Once you get the hang of it, it becomes better. I was always filming myself as well, like once every 2 weeks when I was hitting a bag, just to see if I actually rotate my upper body the way I tell my students to do it. And you know what? We're so full of ourselves, we always believe we do certain things exactly like we're supposed to do it. But very rarely we actually do it like that. I would always realize when I was watching the tape that I wasn't doing it as I told my students to do it. And you know the saying, right? Practice makes perfect. That's another bullcrap saying. It should be perfect practice makes perfect. And that's why you want to videotape yourself when you do a sport. Because when you believe you are doing it correctly and you aren't, well, doing that for 6 months, maybe twice a day, now it's going to be very hard for you to undo what you did wrong. So do it early. In fact, start with it as soon as you learn something new. And then once you get the hang of it, you're going to leave longer periods in between. But always check yourself. Trust me, that helped me personally a lot. It's never enough if you want to be perfect. Till this day, when I shadow box, I focus on my feet, unconnected, just before the moment of impact, and many times on the moment of impact. Do I rotate my upper body enough with every single punch I make? Am I using, as I call it, the poker face? I will make a different video actually about that one because that's a long explanation. But that will change you a lot for the better as well. Simple poker face. But like I said, it's way too much to explain right now. I'll make a video about that. But also mental things, like standing up for yourself. If somebody does or says something bad about you and you're not okay with it, it is in your right to tell that person you are not okay with it. So when a person calls you a dumbass every single day when you walk into an office, even when you know it's a joke, right? If it's getting to you, you have to say something. Because otherwise it's going to escalate. You don't have to be rude, just take the person to the side and tell them very frankly, hey, listen, I know it's meant as a joke, but somehow, don't ask me why, it's starting to annoy me. Could you please stop doing that? You see, I always put the shoe on the other foot. I always think, how would I react if that person was like that to me? And then you find out, you would say, oh, you know what, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. It was just a joke. But what I'm trying to say here, you will understand that the person will understand it as well. And when they don't understand it, well, that's his fault. That's not your fault. And that's it. This is going to take a little bit of work in the beginning. Like I said, start writing things down. That will help you a lot. Examination of conscience, but you can do this with everything. And like I said in the beginning, examination of job is a really great way to get yourself further in the job that you're doing. Godspeed. Awesome.